tell, then you see the road. I'm out to my soul into the size whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of, What If Dannyphantom Enters Jak and Daxter? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of pyrohelixdrago on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Clockwork's Tower. I swear the things I do for the multiverse. Clockwork thought to himself as while he was the ghost of time, he also dealt with other aspects of reality even not from this reality. An acquaintance of his had asked for his help as a timeline was missing a blonde and green hero and he had his own hero he could ask a favor from, which he already did, not that Danny remembered. He made a temporal duplicate and was erasing the duplicate Danny's memories and adjusting his body to the world he was going to. Now, your ghost side won't exist and having half of you missing won't do you any good, he said as he brought in multiple colored energy. One was black with a purple hue, white, red, blue, yellow, and green. Ah yes Eco, he said, fusing these powers to Danny's missing half, seeing him now be complete. His clock staff had the dial spinning in reverse and soon the teen was now an infant with pointy ears. Safe travels Danny, he said, wrapping the infant in a white blanket with his name on it. Desert. A woman was traveling the desert alone. She had dark green hair and was riding through a sandstorm. I swear there should be some precursor artifacts, she thought, as sandstorms basically rearranged the terrain out here. She stopped her vehicle and killed the engine as she heard a sound that wasn't supposed to be out here, an infant crying. She dismounted and went in direction of the screams and soon found the source. 1 hour later. My queen. King Damas said, seeing the love of his life, you know it's bad for your health to go out in the middle of a sandstorm, he said in a caring tone rarely seen by his people. He stopped, seeing a bundle in her arms, a small baby with silver hair and colored stripes resembling the various colors of Eco at the front. I found him in the storm, the woman said to him as she rocked him. King Damas saw the babe resting comfortably, but he seemed to be sweating a lot. Even here the room that was the most moisture in the city. We should take him to see the precursor monks, he said, as he had been to them recently as his wife's health was declining and to top it off they were trying to have a child. 2 hours later. Damas hated the drive here as it was always a hassle. He met a young monk and despite hating the fact he was dealing with a child, he knew the monks often held each other at a similar level of rank or status with one another, so one monk was as good as another despite appearances. The king and queen followed the monk to a small chamber. This child will be a powerful force in the future, the monk said to the couple. Damas, we make a request of you, she said to him. Damas gave her an odd look at the monks who were nomads even in the city of wastelanders. They never wanted anything or asked for anything. The healing we have been giving your wife hasn't been showing many results, but this child can be saved, the monk said to him. Damas held his staff tightly as he was no fool. He knew his wife's condition was steadily declining and there had been no results as of yet. Save the child. Damas's queen said steelly without a hint of wavering. But my queen. Damas said to her only to stop as she looked at him. Damas, my darling Damas, we may not be able to give you the heir you always wanted, but we can save this boy, the queen said to him. He will be your son Damas, in the ways that matter and the ways that don't, the monk said as she saw them look at her strangely. For this to work, I need your blood to mix with this green and light Eco. The child will be yours, she said to them. Damas saw a small upside, but knew blood didn't make a person family, but he was happy his family blood wouldn't die with him as his wife was his one and only. 5 years later, or a few years in the past. Damas saw the island he and young Danny had arrived on. He smiled at the young boy and was amazed to see he had a strong connection with Eco as he was able to generate it in his own body much like he and the other sages. The house of Mar will be in good hands, he thought to himself, establishing his tree. 10 years later. Damas looked to Danny outside helping the town as ever since he was able to, he had been learning to use his Eco powers. He couldn't do much due to his age, but he was able to do a lot more than him when he was younger. he saw Danny now on the bee laughing and smiling with his daughter Keira as he had fished out a lurker shark glowing bright red. At least he's smart, unlike certain company. He thought, looking to Danny's friend Daxter, the clown of the group. "Oh Danny," a feminine voice said, catching Seima's attention. The girl in question was Desiree, a little girl the village took care of as she had washed up on shore somehow all alone with no memories of her past or anything, but she took to Danny immediately. Seimas chuckled seeing his daughter get jealous at the sight, as he had long known his daughter had a crush on the boy and the boy was a bit oblivious if not completely respectful to his daughter. He felt the day was approaching when they'd return back to the present, as Danny was sent back in time about a decade or so in order to buy them time with the metal heads. He just hoped he and his friends would be ready for the challenges they'd face. "Are you guys ready to gut this thing?" Danny asked the girls as they gutted the lurker shark, Danny's nails becoming like talons. Seimas watched as it always interested him in how Danny used dark eco, as he had seen the destructive power it had and how the lurkers used it. Danny seemed to be the same and he hoped it stayed that way, as dark eco was destructive on the best day. There was no telling what it could do to a person when it was inside them. But Danny seemed fine and unchanged when he used the power, so he felt his body had naturally bonded to it like the other echoes he used. Few days later. "Dude, you're a not cell," Danny said, busting his gut and laughing at Daxter. Seimas saw Daxter and knew the time was much closer than he realized that the annoyance he had lived with was now in his orange furry self. Next day. Danny and Daxter finished their training and began collecting power cells for Keira, as with the teleport gates down they needed an alternative way to get there. They got the needed power cells and more in case Keira needed them and made it to the Blue Sage's hut in no time flat. The sage was gone and it made Seimas worried. Few days later. Danny had been running around collecting as many power cells as he could so Keira could get them to the dark eco expert Seimas knew, but whenever he dealt with a precursor statue he felt they were whispering amongst themselves whenever they thought he wasn't around talking about him. Danny made it to the Red Sage's hut where he met Gol and Maya, telling them how they kidnapped all the sages. "You seem very different from all the other sages, I sense dark eco in you," Gol said, getting close to Danny. "Join me, you can feel the power of dark eco, can't you?" he asked him. Maya smiled, feeling it as well. "Perhaps he needs a woman's touch, Gol," she said to her brother, finding the blonde alluring as she could sense power coming off him in waves. Desiree and Keira glared at her as she shamelessly flirted with Danny. They also blushed as the woman was rather well built. "The dark eco in him is strong, as is the other eco. It's as if they are magnifying his power," Maya thought to herself, thinking his power was very alluring. "Sorry, but I'm not into crazy," Danny said to them. "Give it time," Mole said as he and his sister vanished. Next day. Danny was wondering what he was capable of, as Mole and Maya were capable of flight and teleporting. It was far more than what he could do, as so far he could only let off sparks of static and grow his nails out with dark eco. "Are you okay?" Desiree asked Danny curiously. "Yeah, just wondering about my powers," Danny said to her. "Feels like you're lacking, huh?" Desiree asked, getting a nod in return. "Well, now you know how the rest of us feel," she said, seeing his surprise. "Danny, we see you do amazing things all the time. I mean, we could try to learn these things too, or use the eco that naturally occurs, but you do it so effortlessly and just do it," she said with a chuckle. "I mean, someone is hurt if they don't go to Seimas, they go to you," she said as Danny could heal himself, but also others. "Eco please," Daxter said to them. "This guy right here never needed eco to get the job done," he said proudly. "No, he just fell into a vat of it like an idiot, becoming an Otcel," Desiree said as she and Danny shared a laugh. Few hours later. "Hey Danny, mind giving me a charge?" Keira asked, as whenever she was working she often needed a power source and Danny was almost as strong as the one the windmill provided. "Trying to hack into precursor tech again?" Danny asked, as Keira had been trying to make her tech compatible with precursor technology or make something akin to it. "It's so frustrating that this tech is so old and yet we haven't advanced upon it or our own technology," Keira said to him as she hated no progress. Her village was a bit backwater, not counting the Blue Sage, as apparently he had tech similar to her own. Danny had to admit she had a point, as if the artifacts were as old as people said, why haven't there been more advancements? Then again, they were on an island in the middle of nowhere. Keira always enjoyed these talks, as Danny actually understood her and tried to learn the tech she was making, and he could keep up with her. It was nice, as her father, while encouraging her, barely knew what she was making half the time. Few days later, Danny had gathered over 100 precursor power cells and gave them to Keira, as they were interested in the precursor tech they had managed to take from Mole and Mila. Keira had taken apart most of the tech and placed it next to her home. It was honestly impressive how dedicated she was. Desiree had cleared out Mole and Mila's items, admiring Mila's style and secretly wanting to catch Danny's attention. She borrowed a few. Later at night, Danny, Desiree, and Keira were on Samasa's hut looking to the sky. "Where do you think it'll take us?" Danny asked, looking at the portal arch. "Space," Keira said unsurely. "Oh, maybe the precursor home world," she said excitedly. "Or another world entirely," Desiree said jokingly, as the arch could take them anywhere. They sat and thought about the portal that would lead them to their next adventure. Next day, Danny and Keira ended up in the middle of an active race and ended up in someone's garage. "Do you have any idea where we are?" Danny asked Keira, only to see her ogling at the race and the tech around them. He held up his finger, charged it with blue eco, and zapped her. "Do I have your attention?" he asked as she blushed. "Sorry, but I can't believe all the tech here," Keira said to him, as this was a big step up from the island. Danny was listening and looked around, listening and paying as much attention as possible. "A month's worth of eco for this race? 20,000 precursor orbs for winning this race too. The Crimson Guard is looking around, we should leave." Danny was paying as close attention as he could. "We need to enter this race," he thought to himself, as they'd win much needed money and eco would be nice as well. "Got any ideas to get us in this race?" he asked her. Keira smiled, as she liked speed and fast vehicles. "Give me a moment," she said to him as she turned a corner. Few minutes later, "Keira, who owned this hover bike?" Danny asked her. "Some guy stole his keys and locked him in a garage," Keira said to him as he went onto the track, staring at her. Keira's was faster. Danny thought, as Keira's hover bike on the island was much faster than this. These guys are driving similar bikes, he thought, as that'd be easier to predict their speed. 3 minutes later, "You won," Keira said to him in excitement. "Yeah, come on," Danny said as he went over to collect their winnings. 2 hours later, Danny immediately rented out a garage, and given they were gonna be regular racers, the price was discounted. He bought Keira a list of tools for maintenance on the new bike they bought, having returned the one Keira borrowed, and for other such devices. "We should keep racing, Danny, it's good money," Keira said to him, as racing paid good. "Yeah, but we should also hunt metal heads," Danny said, as metal head crystals were worth a lot of money to a lot of people. Keira couldn't deny Danny could handle himself in a fight, and it did provide them with another source of money. "Where do you think the others ended up?" she asked, as after picking themselves up she was curious to where her father, Desiree, and Daxter were. "I've been asking around, as we all fell out of the sky, that's hard to miss," Danny said, as he heard a small orange creature land in another sector. Keira had to admit he was right, and she was concerned, as the KG was looking for the people who fell out of the sky, but what for was the question. With Desiree. Desiree was sweating from every pore she had, as she had been taken by the KG at the moment of her landing and sent to prison. "Look, Ashelin, a subject that survived the dark eco injection," Baron Praxis said, showing his daughter one of the survivors of the dark eco injection. Desiree looked at the man in hatred and then saw the girl next to him. She looked 1 or 2 years older than herself. Ashelin gave her an apologetic look, as there was nothing she could do at this moment. "Tell me, girl, I have heard from Unin that there is a child who can wield all powers of eco, is this true?" Baron asked her. Desiree stayed quiet and became tense when he started to laugh. Word to the wise, whenever a person doesn't answer a question, it usually means they are afraid or know something. Baron said to her as he chuckled. "A person that can wield eco?" Ashelin asked him curiously. "Such a marvelous thing, to wield all that power, and they are able to wield it whenever they wish. That is more than what she is going to be. Baron said to his daughter, motioning to Desiree. We cannot break him, sadly, he said as to her. Ashelin was surprised, as her father believed in people being bought or broken. Then what? She asked, wondering what he was going to do. We'll need a way to secure his loyalty. Baron said to himself, mostly, but I need to see what he's capable of so I can see if I can infuse it in my soldiers, he said, as a person who could wield all eco-types was invaluable. Ashelin now felt pity for this person, as her father's interest was not something a person wanted, and his tests were often suicide missions for the guards. Next day, Danny heard there were 2 places where metalheads could be found outside the city and inside the sewers. He decided to fight outside the city for obvious reasons and immediately spotted some metalheads. He killed them quickly, punching them as hard as he could, ripping out their crystals fast. 2 hours later. Ma'am, we have someone here wanting to be reimbursed for metalhead crystals, a guard said to Ashelin. So we pay people all the time, what's the problem? Ashelin asked, as the city did it as a way to kill the metalheads faster by encouraging civilians, as it made them seek out metalheads, bugs or beasts. The people would find them and kill them, getting a reward for their crystals. Man, this person brought in 100 crystals, the guard said to him. Ashelin was surprised, as an average guard could bring in maybe 3, but that many was insane. She went to the public office and saw the man waiting. Lieutenant Ashelin Praxis, are you the one that caught all those crystals? She asked, assuming this was the person, as they had about 4 sacks filled with metalhead crystals. Yes. Danny said, as he was a bit annoyed that he was kept waiting for his payment. Impressive catch. I don't see any weapons. Ashelin said, as that was a huge red flag in her mind. I have my own means. Danny said, seeing a guard slowly walk to his blind spot, and when he heard a gun PP, his hands glowed yellow. Is that? Ashelin said in realization, seeing yellow eco. It's him, she thought to herself in surprise. Danny shot a fireball at the guard before he got the chance to fire at him and held his hand up, looking at Ashelin, waiting for her to make a move. Ashelin looked at the public office worker and motioned for him to pay. Danny, what's your name? She asked, needing to walk away with something. Danny. Danny said, walking away. Funny, doesn't Damas have a son by that name? Ashelin thought to herself, thinking of the king of the wasteland. 1 hour later. We'll have to keep an eye on this guy. Torn said, as it helped Baron wasn't acting on him, but it meant he might have someone watching him like them. The guy took on 100 metal heads. That alone screams talent, eco or no eco. Ashelin said, as the resistance was small, but someone like that could do a lot of good. My father wants to assign him a mission for a wasteland metal head. Ashelin said, as it was rare for the KG to assign missions to metalhead collectors, but it did happen. Torn had seen the reports, as some often tried to attack the walls surrounding Haven. Those things were colossal. Wastelanders weaponized their vehicles to fight those things. Ashelin said, as it was more difficult otherwise. You think he'll survive? Torn asked, as if Danny accepted they couldn't do anything, as he was sure the Baron would be close by. Who knows? Ashelin said, as she could be with her father when this test happened, but that was it. Her father's trust in her varied, as he knew she acted independently, but when she did something worthy in his eyes, he momentarily brought her closer. 1 week later. So the Baron wants you to fight this? Keira asked, as she hacked into the KG files, and when she saw the beast Danny was gonna fight, she was shocked to say the least. I'm sorry, I didn't know I was the one they were after. Danny said to her, as apparently, they wanted him for his eco powers. Well, cat's out of the bag. Are you gonna fight this thing? Keira asked, as he could turn it down. Yeah, might make things easier for us. Keep your enemies close. Danny said, as the moment he saw Baron Praxis, he knew what the man was, a power-hungry dictator. Next day. Danny, welcome, we're here to escort you outside the walls. Baron Praxis said, with Ashelin in tow. You fried a guard, think you can fry a metalhead of that size? Ashelin asked him, neither taunting or suggesting. She was genuinely curious. We're about to find out. Danny said to her, can I get a KG hover bike? He asked the Baron, getting a nod. Few minutes later. Are those things strong enough to pierce that thing's flesh? Ashelin asked her father as they rode alongside Danny, him being too far to hear them. Those cannons on the front are higher caliber than the staffs the guards carry, but it shouldn't do much to the thick skin of these metal heads. Baron said to her truthfully. Ashelin didn't like Danny's odds even with his powers. 20 minutes later. So will it work? Danny asked Keira over the comms. Theoretically yes, but it's insane. Keira said as Danny's plan was suicide if he failed. Danny heard the ground shaking and focused, he channeled blue eco into the hoverbike and smiled feeling it hum and heat up from his charge. With Ashelin. He's charging the bike with blue eco. Ashelin said as she was keeping track of that hoverbike for various reasons and the output was through the roof. He's sending all the systems into overdrive. Baron said seeing the bike's performance, the cannons will be much stronger now due to the excess power they have, he said excited to see Danny fight now more than ever. Danny shot right for the beast's eyes thinking that was its most sensitive spot and easiest to hit. The metal head running around roared as Danny had hit one of its eyes causing it to stumble. He's smart at least. Ashelin said as reducing a creature's vision was very smart, especially for a beast that size. I'm more impressed he can keep the charge up so long. Baron said to her as he watched and monitored Danny. Danny kept the fire and soon the metal head fell crashing to the ground. Impressive, mind doing a repeat performance? Baron asked as both Ashelin and Danny could tell there was no possible way he'd accept a refusal. 2 hours later. Okay, I've gotten you 7 metal heads. Danny said to the Baron over the comms, can I please go home, he said as these things were no joke. Baron was amazed as it would have taken a battalion for each of those beasts and he had seen Danny use his eco powers in full succession he had seen him use it to enhance him and his attacks, the boy was skilled and his powers made him deadly. Ashelin was a bit afraid as if her father ever found a way to make more of Danny than the resistance was done for. We are keeping this between us. Baron said to Ashelin surprising her, this boy is a game changer and a power we need, he said to his daughter, if we can somehow make even a fraction of what he is the metalhead scourge will be gone forever, he said to her as he was deep in thought. We should have him work for us, we can't hold someone like him. Ashelin said as that was pure truth. And to top it off I don't know how to infuse a person with eco, I shall look into it with Unin. Baron said as that was one citizen he couldn't control despite his wishes that he could. We could hire him again. Ashelin said giving her father a suggestion. He will need to be checked on regularly, I'd normally leave this to Errol, but he is busy. Baron said as Errol was busy helping him with the dark eco experiments, he was convinced now more than ever they needed eco-enhanced soldiers, so you will monitor him, he said as if the discussion was done. Well I guess that answers that. Ashelin thought as Torn needed someone to monitor Danny and now her father was sending her for himself, she was doing the same mission for both sides. 2 months later. Danny and Keira made a decent amount with their racing and metalhead hunting, plus they mostly lived at the garage, so they had a nice amount of income. Danny had become a pro quickly gaining some unwanted attention. Ah Daniel, an annoying and gruff voice said getting his attention. The answer is no crew. Keira said as this man wanted to sponsor Danny in all his races, which basically came out to highway theft, they both decided it was too much of a hassle and no profit working with him, plus Danny discovered through many trials and errors that all information went to crew or through him, which made it impossible to find Daxter, Desiree, or her father as he was silencing loose ends. They wouldn't be blackmailed so they tried their best as a team to find their friends. And I see you still let the help speak for themselves. Crew said in annoyance, I am here with an offer, he said as he floated to Danny. Whatever it is I am not signing jack squat, if you wrote it, then there is gonna be stuff in the fine print. Danny said not trusting Crew as far as he could throw him. Fine, a gentleman's agreement. Crew said as Danny raised a brow at him. Okay, what do you want and why ask us? Danny asked curiously. I mean, Keira hates you and she's the best mechanic around, he said, as Keira was a great mechanic and he had been teaching her how to drive, even having her enter some races. She may not have won each one, but she managed to get into the top 3 of each race. I need a team of 3 to enter a Crass City race. I have a wager going on with the local crime boss. Crew said to them, fanning himself. Brutal honesty from a crime lord. Keira said in slight surprise, wait, you said 3, Danny makes 1, but who are the other 2, she asked, seeing him smile eagerly. Why, you, my dear, and my daughter. Crew said to them. He's had SEC. They both thought, unable to think of what desperate and possibly blind woman would sleep with him. Wonder if his daughter is as much a slob as he is. Keira thought before they heard the sound of clicking heels, and soon walked in an elegant woman who was everything Crew wasn't. She had an even tanner complexion than her and she grew up on an island. Danny and Keira, yes, I'm Rain. Rain said, introducing himself. You are your father's daughter. Danny said, surprising everyone, it's your eyes, they have that same calculating gaze he has, he said, surprising them even further. Rain was quiet now and her mask was shaken a bit. Not many could see past her mask, but to do so in the first meeting, he's no fool, she thought, as the people her father was usually around were muscle-headed idiots. He was different, smarter. Ah, finally someone notices the resemblance. Crew said to himself, now what do you say, Daniel? All your mechanics' needs will be taken care of and you'll be given the prize money. I keep the trophy, he said to him. Danny was curious for many reasons, but he nodded all the same. 10 minutes later. I can't believe you agreed to help him. Keira said to him. I did it mostly for the publicity. I mean, think about it, this race is televised in both cities, our missing friends should be able to see us then. Danny said, as with Crew in his way it was hard, so he was hoping this could help them get the message out. Keira had to admit he had a point, as their races, while public, weren't the kind of thing to draw attention unless one was a racing enthusiast or who liked danger and competitive sports, so Daxter or Desiree should be able to see it. With Desiree. Desiree sat in her cell sweating profusely, her body was fighting the dark eco and it was as if she was detoxing from some drag. Don't fight it, a voice said in the back of her mind. Let it settle and unleash it, the voice said to Desiree. Desiree tried to ignore it, but she hoped she was going crazy as she knew that voice. It was Maya. You have so much potential with dark eco, Desiree, you have seen Danny fight with it, I know you felt its allure before we even met, and think of Danny. Maya said to her, think about it, both of you wielding the power of eco, the things you both could do, she said to her with a small chuckle. Desiree thought about how she and Danny were on the island. Even on Lurker Island she wasn't much help. She may have had his back and helped him, but she wanted to do more, she wanted to be of use to him. The white in her eyes turned completely black for a moment. Few days later. I cannot believe I have a DMN babysitter. Danny said, looking to Ashelin as they arrived at Crass City. I need to keep an eye on you as you're a part-time military asset. Ashelin said, as that was what her father came up with, as Danny was no fool, something her father respected, but he wasn't easily manipulated, something he hated. But he needed to compromise given Danny's unique nature. It was kind of funny that Unan wouldn't tell him much of anything else. So who are we racing? Keira asked boredly. All-time racing champ, Razor, and his team UR-86 and his sideman Shiv. Rain said to her simply, holding up her tablet with their most recent photo. Why does it look like a KG? Danny asked, seeing the robot. It was originally designed to fight outside of the city, but it got overloaded with driving and killing and gained a form of sentience. Ashelin said to him, as this robot was the very definition of road warrior, it was meant to drive and kill. And this Shiv is a wastelander, he is not the best, but he adapts. Rain said to them, informing them of the last member. So a high-class racer, a killer driving robot, and a guy who drives in a wild and weaponized environments. Am I missing anything? Danny asked curiously. We need to win. Rain said to him. I'll get to work. Keira said as she had Rain pull up footage of their previous races. 1 hour later. The race uses eco? Danny asked her curiously. In a way, there are checkpoints all over, some are wild weapons or traps or eco, some rev up our engines and some is green eco, and if you do impressive feats like long drifts or take out a racer, you are rewarded with dark eco. Rain said as it was a bit unfair, but that was the race, everything was chance. What if we use eco from outside the ring? Danny asked her. Illegal. Rain said as it was an unfair advantage and it would alter the even playing field the racers got. There might another way you can do with your powers, Danny. Keira said to him, that bot UR-86 is technically connected to his vehicle. He doesn't so much drive it as it is a part of his body or an extension, and he might be supplying his vehicle with power to make it go faster, she said to him. What powers? Rain asked curiously. I have eco powers, I can generate it and channel it. Danny said to her, making his hand glow in various colors. Rain looked through the rule book about person and driver and there was nothing about what he could do that was illegal. Can you alter his vehicle to channel his power better? She asked curiously. Lady, what do you think I'm doing? Keira said to her flatly. Next day. So who gets who? Danny asked them curiously as it'd be best to take one at a time. I'll take UR-86. Keira said as tech was her specialty and she had been watching him closely in his races. Given your eco powers, you're gonna take Razor. Rain said as that left her with Shiv. The team nodded and went to the bar for lunch and unfortunately, their enemy team was there as well. Razor saw Danny and approached him. The up-and-comer of Haven, he said, having often seen many races and learned of the budding skill in each city. Is that imbecile Errol still saying he can beat me? He asked as Errol was a pain in the ass whenever he visited the city. He runs his mouth a lot. Danny said to him as Errol kept challenging him to a race and Danny thought it'd be more trouble getting even more KG attention. Razor laughed at that. You know Mizo would be interested in a driver such as yourself, he said, passing along the offer. I'm not so easily bought and I let my skills do the talking. Danny said to him. We'll see what your skills say in the race. Razor said, walking away. Next day. Last one standing. Danny said as he and Razor were the last remaining racers. Rain was taken out first, Keira took out UR-86 and then Shiv, but was taken out by Razor. In the audience. Think he can win? Rain asked Keira as they nursed their injuries. Are we watching the same race? Look at him. Keira said as Danny was in the lead. Danny and Razor were in a heavy firefight, but Danny was doing much better as he fueled his weapons with dark eco and was using green to undo any heavy damage he took. Everyone was on the edge of their seats seeing the two battle and clash violently. Danny smiled as he slowed down and hit the back right side of Razor's vehicle, causing him to lose control and spin, allowing Danny to gain the lead. No. Razor said, starting his engine again following Danny, but before he could get any farther, he struck a landmine. Few minutes later. We are the victors. Danny said as they all enjoyed a nice drink, in their garage. Yeah, and I found out what the bet crew did was. Keira said, filling him in. Apparently it was a power control for Crass City, a winner takes all kinda bet, she said to him. Doesn't change anything really. I mean the crime will be the same just with a different person running it. Danny said to her, but there is an upside, he said to her. There is? Rain asked as with her father there rarely was one. We can re-enter this tournament and not be under crew. We won the grand prize and the cash of 100,000 precursor orbs. Danny said as this race was a cash grab. They had to admit he had a point. What about her? We can't be a team of 3 anymore and you need someone to watch your back. Keira said as even Razor had hired help as one couldn't win a race without backup, plus she's Crew's daughter, she might sell us out or use us herself, she said as that was an honest concern. I am nothing like my father. Rain said as they stared at her blankly. Fine, I'm smarter and more efficient, besides I can get you all the yet-to-be-released toys, she said as her father often acquired many items from various jobs, plus I haven't told anyone about your eco powers, she said to him. Lot of good that does us. Keira thought as the KG knew, but it wasn't known publicly as the Baron wanted it close to the vest, so she assumed only he and Ashelin and possibly his higher-ups. We'll do a trial run. Danny said to her, but if you betray us there will be many consequences, he said to her very seriously. 4 months later. Danny won yet another race back in Haven City. In the 6 months they had been here, the metalheads were becoming easier targets, having learned their movements in the sewers where he could predict their movements and kill them. Danny. Baron said walking into the garage. Excellent performance, he said as Danny had once again won the Haven City Championship, gaining money and eco, and nice work clearing out the metalhead nest, he said as he sent Danny to clear out a nest recently. Danny really hated talking to this guy, but it was better for them if he thought they were on his side. How's Errol's ego? He asked as Errol often said that he was only keeping the title warm for him. The Baron laughed. How are the Haven City champions? He asked as after Crass City Danny and his team gained a lot of fame, he didn't like that Crew had sponsored them, but just having Danny would be enough. Danny had to admit Rain had been straight with them, while it somewhat killed him and Keira working for Crew wasn't all bad as they had been properly compensated in weapons and cash, they still raced as a team and had been winning good money. Crew Spar. Sig was having a difficult time as something recent happened in the wastelands. His king's son was taken. Damas was the most honorable man he knew and he respected him greatly. The man may have been as cutthroat as any other wastelander, it didn't mean he wasn't a kind person. He never allowed children to suffer or do combat until properly trained. But Sig recently hit both a lead and a dead end as one of Crew's recent hires. One of the few he liked and considered wastelander material was somehow the child he was looking for. Damas had recently supplied him with a BLD eco sample of his child, and the strongest and closest match was Danny himself. When he told Damas, the man thought he was an idiot as there was a decade age gap between the two, but he paused when he mentioned Danny's name and the fact he had eco powers. Damas then sent him additional help, in the form of his sister Valerie. Valerie, while young, was just as skilled as Sig was in tracking and even combat. She had broken into KG Labs and stolen plenty of their gear, earning her nickname the Red Huntress. Her suit seemed small as it was black with red as a secondary color. She would monitor Danny while Sig kept his eyes peeled out for the child. So Damas wants a BLD sample? Valerie asked her brother as they sat at the bar as Crew sleep floated. Yeah, he also gave me this. Sig said, revealing a red talisman. It will react to anyone in the House of Mar. It should prove conclusively if these two are one and the same, he said as the BLD of Mar was extremely rare. Only Damas was the last known person to have it along with his child, while eco was in everyone. It was possible to match the results of people. Did Unin have anything to say? Valerie asked as while she didn't believe in a lot, Unin seemed like the real deal when she said she was all-knowing. Nothing, she's giving Baron Praxis the runaround. It makes me think he is the kid somehow, because Unin doesn't hide anything, and if she was it would mean that whatever she was hiding is pretty DMN special. Sig said as Unin was easier to read than people thought if they looked at it from the right angle. She wasn't telling people anything about Danny, which meant there was something special about him besides his eco powers. Valerie had to admit he had a point as Unin's silence was an oddity. So how do we get it? She asked as it wasn't going to be easy. He goes to the range close by on occasion. Crew has joint ownership. Will be alerted when he goes there. When he's on the range you join him and miss a shot graze him. Sig said as Danny would be close enough for the talisman to react. Valerie nodded as it was a sound plan. What if he is Damas' son? She asked curiously as she doubted they could take him on as they had spied on him fighting metalheads, and even Sig had to admit Danny was more a match for his level when it came to killing metalheads. Then something is really wrong cause he's supposed to be like 6. Sig said as his best guess was a precursor artifact or something of that nature, as certain artifacts possessed certain powers. He had seen some strange ones in his time. Few weeks later. Sig was in an awkward position right now as he was in a bit of a standoff. I'm gonna ask this once, who are you and why are you after Danny? Torn said to him, his gun fully loaded. At the same time Ashelin was having a similar standoff in the targeting range as Danny had left priorly as Keira called him to test out a new engine. Why are you after Danny? She asked. As she saw Valerie collect some of his BLD, when she accidentally grazed him. The two pairs of people were all loaded. 2 hours later. The shooting range looked like a war zone, each pair having shot pretty much in every direction trying to kill their opposing enemy. The explosions were large and vast. Eventually, each person went to their partner. Who the F are these people? Torn asked Ashelin as he was almost tempted to recruit them here and now for the resistance. I don't know, but that took Danny's BLD. Ashelin said as her father tried something similar months ago and he injected it into a few prisoners, none lasted an hour, and while not usable for soldiers, her father thought it could be used for weaponry. And I thought Haven didn't have any good warriors. Sig said reloading. These guys are top of the line. Valerie said willing to admit that. Alright, I'm gonna give each of you one chance to surrender. Torn said bluffing his as off. That voice. Valerie thought to herself. F your surrender. Sig said as death was a better alternative. Is that? Ashelin thought as she got up and saw Sig. Ashelin/Sig. Sig and Ashelin said upon seeing each other. Valerie/Torn. Torn and Valerie said seeing the other as they got up the moment their partners did. 20 minutes later. So Danny is Damas' son. Ashelin said in surprise as it meant Danny was royalty and the true heir to the throne. According to the talisman and the BLD sample we got, yeah, he is definitely Damas' kid. Sig said to her. I thought the heir was a child. Torn asked him. Still trying to figure that out, might be some precursor artifact or something. Sig said to them. So what do we do? Damas wants his son, but Danny doesn't seem to know anything, and to top it off, he's possibly the only one that can dethrone her father. Valerie said pointing to Ashelin. Doesn't do us any good if he leaves the city, if he stays here he can do a lot more good. Ashelin said to them, he's been getting the attention of the people, he has been clearing out metalheads faster than a few dozen of my father's troops, she said to them. Sig had to concede to that as he had heard about Danny killing metalheads by the PND, even hearing he cleared a nest and a few wasteland metalheads. Damas would be pleased by that. So do we tell him? Valerie asked them. I've been contemplating adding him to the resistance for a while. Ashelin said as the reason why she was waiting was because she needed him to be as popular as possible along with her father, thinking that whatever would occur would be because of the resistance and didn't want any of it to lead back to Danny as her father would try to destroy him then, especially if he knew that Danny was of Mars bloodline. Does he even trust you? Sig asked as he knew Ashlin's regular personality left much to be desired, but if she was with Danny as ordered per her father, he didn't see anyone with Damas' BLD liking or respecting that. I try to be nice. Ashelin said as her niceness was debatable if it was nice at all, but Danny respected her as a soldier and a woman. It was a bit nice as most soldiers mainly followed her due to who her father was. They were all a bit silent, all of them contemplating. You know, maybe we should try to get Danny on the throne. Valerie said, getting Sig's attention as their orders were to bring him to Damas. Hear me out, with Danny on the throne, he could open the borders of Haven with the wasteland. I mean by drive it's only an hour or two from here to Spargus, she said to him, plus imagine if we followed his lead, alone he can take down an army of metalheads, but if we follow him a lot more than that, she said to her brother. Sig had to concede as Damas was able to do a lot of damage on his own whenever he left the city, but with him leading the city and his judge of character many soldiers such as him came to be and did much damage. So how long do we wait, and how do we get him on the throne? He asked them. Gotta be a year. The underground is about a score of people, that ain't enough to mount a resistance. Torn said to them. Sig didn't like that but understood as the underground was small right now. So question is, do we tell Danny? Ashelin asked them as that was the most pressing thing on her mind. He might have answers as to how he's an adult. Sig said as he was curious to what Danny knew that could help him explain this to Damas. If we tell him, could it blow up in our faces? Torn asked them. How he fights the metalheads, he's a racer, and he doesn't seem to like the Baron. Sig said as he saw the Baron with Danny before, and Danny seemed to be putting a false front to the man constantly in his presence. Well, he could just say F it and leave it to the city, and let's be honest, this city is full of power-hungry idiots. We need someone to take the throne. Torn said as that was how people like the Baron and Errol got into power. That was a possibility they couldn't deny. 1 week later. Mind explaining why you broke into my garage? Danny asked Valerie, nursing a shot he took in the arm, as Valerie was tied up hanging upside down. "Wanted to see you in action," Valerie said as she had yet to meet him professionally as they were only on the range together. She wanted to see him in real action and he didn't disappoint. Didn't even use his eco powers, she thought as she was both impressed and insulted that he didn't use them on her. Danny lit the tip of his finger and tossed a yellow eco flame at core parts of her bindings, letting her fall down. 10 minutes later. "So you are a criminal, who attacks the KG. Have you met Errol? His garage is just down the hall," Danny said as he pointed directly to it. Valerie smiled and put that information to the side as she loved flipping off the KG. "So want to cause some mayhem?" she asked him. Danny raised an eyebrow as he was curious now. 30 minutes later. "Here," Valerie said, handing him a red bandana to cover his mouth. "You got anything to hide your hair?" she asked as silver hair with highlights was pretty specific. Danny answered her question by channeling dark eco. His hair became pure black and his highlights were non-existent. "Cool," Valerie said to him. "We're robbing a KG armory. They keep the good stuff for the higher-ups," she said to him as she raised a hand and a small wrist blaster came out. "Made this little baby after modifying it from some KG staffs. It's smaller but packs a punch," she said, shooting the vent cover they were above dropping down. "And no security?" Danny asked her curiously. "They are dumber than they look," Valerie said to him. Soon they both heard rolling and saw red spheres. "Those are new," Valerie said before the PA came online. "Hello intruder, I've noticed a shortage in armory inventory for months now, so I set up my security to capture anyone not part of the KG." Errol's voice said loudly of the PA system. The spheres popped up and soon revealed robots designed after the KG. "Just so you are aware, I can't use my special gift," Danny said as if someone was caught wielding eco they'd link it to him immediately. Valerie understood completely. They both equipped themselves with their weapons. 2 hours later. "Broke into the KG armory and helped me liberate a lot of their tech," Valerie said to Torn. Torn was impressed. "He's willing to stick it to the Baron." "Well, I'm convinced," he said as Ashelin nodded in agreement. "We'll start making a cover and could use crew to hide certain activities," Ashelin said as while there weren't enough members of the underground to fight against her father there were enough to undermine him. "I guess I'll have to be the one to tell him everything," she said to them. "Are you gonna tell him?" Sig asked as they had yet to tell Danny who he was. "We gotta," Ashelin said as she hoped Danny would take the throne when the time came. Next day. Ashelin followed Danny on a metalhead hunt, something her father encouraged as there was little to no security down there. "So you gonna ask me to join your little rebellion?" Danny asked, seeing the shock and surprise in her eyes. "Ashelin, I've known you for 6 months. You don't spend that amount of time not learning about the person you are constantly with," he said as he didn't like the Baron's people constantly following him. Ashelin was an exception as he respected her, take no SHT attitude. Ashelin let out a small smile. "Can I ask you something before you join?" she asked him, getting a nod. "What do you fight for?" she asked him as that was what truly defined someone, the cause and the reason they had for fighting. "Simple," Danny said, firing a shot that took out a metal head. "I fight for friends and family. I fight to protect others, but I also fight for myself," he said, seeing her look at him as if to explain. "The world isn't a fair place. I'm not just gonna sit there and take when I can do something," he said to her as he couldn't sit back and do nothing when people were mistreated and hurt by some dictator. Ashelin smiled at his response as she felt the same way as while she was her father's daughter. She didn't like what he did to other people and the power he abused. With Sig. Sig listened to Danny's answer to Ashelin through a bug he slipped into Ashelin's gun via an upgrade mod. "He's Damas' son alright," Valerie said to Sig as she was impressed by the answer and saw it coming. Damas never took to disloyalty or injustice. It seemed Danny was the same way. Sig was going to tell Damas about Danny. He was sure his leader would like and respect the plan of Danny battling the Baron. "Think he's single?" Valerie asked as she was a wasteland girl, and when a wasteland girl wanted a man they pursued them like predators and tried to claim them, as was the rule was for finding precursor or other artifacts in the desert. She was reminded of that woman Keira Danny was always with. She had attitude, something she respected, but she wanted Danny and she would have him. With Desiree. Desiree sat in her cell, no longer feeling the detox symptoms as previous times. Now she could feel her body creating and generating the dark echo. She retained all her features, but when she focused on them she could turn her skin to a dark shade of silver, her black hair turned a dark gray shade, and her eyes were pitch black. You have done well, Desiree. Maya said to her, soon you will be a powerful dark eco warrior, she said, as in truth Desiree had matured her powers nicely, especially within a prison cell and keeping it a secret. While unable to fly much like she and her brother or teleport, her physical abilities were at a high level and she could generate her eco to become lightning like blue eco. Soon we will both be free, she said, chuckling inside Desiree's mind. Underground base. This took a lot longer than I thought it would. Sig said to the others. We have troops now and the people are getting more and more restless. Torn said as the Baron was hurting the people to try and get at them. Upside is Danny is getting bolder. Ashelin said as Danny was truly helping them out as he gave half of his eco winnings to them. He was attacking the metalheads publicly, which was both a good and bad thing, as her father was claiming that Danny was in his employ, which was true to an extent and made it harder for people to trust Danny on some degree, as people both respected him for his deeds and skills and feared him for his wrath, or more accurately her father's. She had developed quite nicely over the years, and especially in training with Danny, as her father made it her mission, where she was to monitor his every move in pretty much every way. Her luscious melons had filled to large G-cups, her athletic body was much more smooth, and her peach was nice and toned. Did you tell him about Desiree? Sig asked as Danny had told Ashelin that he was a time traveler. It made sense to a degree even for precursor technology. This was a bit of a jump, and after telling her he told her about the people that came with him. Ashelin was ashamed as she had met Desiree during her eco experiments, as the woman was not changing, but had taken so much dark eco into her body it was a marvel she was even alive. We'd be able to change the direction of this war if we had another of Danny. Torn said as it was clear as day as Danny alone was incredible and skilled. Didn't he find that orange rat thing? Valerie asked curiously. She had also been with Danny in the wastelands finding many metalhead nests. Seeing him go to work keeping pace with her was amazing. She was curious too if he had his own wheels or if he'd fight in his father's arena. She had H-cup melons, a curvy body with a well-chiseled frame, and her peach was nice and round. Sadly, yes. Ashelin said as she met him when she and Danny went to a bar for drinks after a metalhead hunt. They ran into Daxter and she couldn't believe there was so much ego in such a tiny creature. He was the opposite of Danny in every possible way. She wondered how he put up with him. In the 18 months he's been here in Haven, he's gotten the admiration of the people, helps the underground stock up, and we've done nothing for him. Sig said as this was why he didn't like politics or Haven City that much. Torn was quiet as Sig made a point. Well, what can we do? I mean, we can't just spring Desiree from prison, can we? He asked Ashelin curiously. She's held in my father's high-security prison. Ashelin said as getting in would be easy, getting out is another story entirely. What about who he is? He's of the House of Mar, he deserves to know, he's been loyal to this long enough. Valerie said as she was tired of hiding this from Danny. We should tell him, may want to warm him up to the idea of king. Ashelin said as Danny had more than earned their trust. Hopefully this doesn't go to his head. Torn said as Danny, while a stand-up person, was a bit vindictive to those who crossed him, often settling the score. Next day. So I'm the of the House of Mar, awesome. Danny said to Ashelin. Doesn't it strike you as odd you are apparently supposed to be a child in this time? Keira asked, finding it crazy her best friend was somehow a time traveler. She had E-cup melons, a curvy and smooth body, and a round SNSL peach. Well, what can we do? Plus it makes things kinda better. I mean, do we even need to travel back? I kinda like our new lives. Danny asked her curiously as Keira had finished rebuilding the vehicle they used to arrive here. Keira had to admit he made a point, as she felt this was the perfect place for her, as times were much farther ahead and the tech was good and she finally had some excitement in her life. And we know where Desiree is. Ashelin said to them, explaining what had been happening to her. The room dropped many degrees as Danny felt a surge of dark eco within himself. The girls backed up, seeing Danny gain truly aggressive traits and purple sparks come off him. I'll kill him. Danny said as he sounded dead serious. Not that that isn't the end goal we want, if you march right up to him and fail, you blow everything. Ashelin said as he could do a lot. But fighting the entire palace may have been a bit much even for him. Danny calmed down slightly, knowing the risks his actions could bring. If he blew his position he'd put a lot of people in danger. I'll think of some way to get her out, he said, changing his hair to red as after each mission he changed his hair and eye color to make sure he wasn't recognized. Come in all units, there has been a breakout in Sector 5, and a prisoner has escaped, a guard said over Ashelin's communicator. What are the chances that's not Desiree? Keira asked, knowing the odds of that were slim to none. No one got a response as they all saw Danny was gone, leaving a blue eco trail as he dashed to the location. Few minutes later, Danny saw a hole through the prison part of the palace and could feel powerful dark eco in the environment. Excuse me young man, are you alright? An elderly man. Yeah, I'm just looking for a friend. Danny said as he felt it in the air. There was dark eco here, but most importantly he felt Desiree. He knew this was her dark eco energy. But there was something else about it. He saw the little boy next to the old man and smiled at him, seeing a familiar amulet on him. Don't I have one of those? He thought as he left it with Keira, as it was a precursor artifact, but they were unsure of what it did. Well, I'm sure you'll find them, but be careful, the guards are on high alert, the elder man said to him. Come on Des, give me a sign. Danny thought to himself, trying to follow the trail of residual eco. Raw power, the old man thought, looking down at the boy next to him, amazed by what he'd become. With Desiree. Desiree didn't know where she was, but all she knew was she was in salt water near the edge of the wall of Haven City, seeing many huts built of wood. She held her breath, diving, getting as far from the guards as she could. With Danny. The ocean. Danny thought at the part of the wall near the ocean. Never liked this place, he thought to himself as he felt that there was something wrong here. He followed the trail to the water. Smart, he thought to himself, as Desiree was a tracker that often hunted food on the island and in the sea, and that meant she knew how to not be tracked by people searching for her, but it made it harder for him as he could no longer sense her eco through the water. She has to be close by, he thought to himself. Needing to look around. With Desiree. Do you hear it? Maya said to Desiree mentally. Desiree didn't hear anything, but she did feel something. She slowly raised her head from the water, looking around her surroundings, not seeing any KG. She slowly climbed up. Dark eco, a loud raspy voice said. Is that? Desiree thought to herself, seeing an open door, and soon saw a precursor statue. With Danny. She's up. Danny thought, feeling Desiree's dark eco again. With Desiree. You have much power with dark eco, child, and you've done me a great service by bringing the chosen one to me, the statue said to her. Chosen one? Desiree and Maya thought to themselves. He has many metal head crystals with him, enough for me to do what I need to the both of you, the statue said as it chuckled. Desiree, you should leave. I have never met a statue like this. No precursor used dark eco to my knowledge, and none of the statues ever used them. Maya said to her. Desiree agreed, as it was an oddity that the statue seemed fixated on her. Desiree. Danny said, barging in, but before he knew it he had all the metal head crystals on his person begin to vibrate and float toward the precursor statue. Finally, now to give you what you need, the statue said as it shot both of them with dark eco lightning, making them cry out in pain. 1 hour later. I swear I need to kill those DMN statues. Danny thought to himself, seeing he had gray skin as did Desiree, but he also saw Maya on the ground. Fantastic, he thought sarcastically. He soon saw all their dark eco features vanish. He looked to Maya, never seeing her before with non-dark eco features. Her hair was pure white, her skin was tan much like that of all the natives of the island, and her eyes were blue. I need a hovercraft, he thought to himself as he needed to not be seen. Danny went outside and saw one unattended and got it. He got it as close to the building. He got out and picked up Desiree, but stopped to admire how much she had changed and to admire her beauty. Her hair was longer and her face was more mature, but his eyes traveled down. Her bust certainly increased during their time apart. Her BRST were low eye cups. Her body was that of a model, or one a model would kill to have. And her peach was soft and firm. He unconsciously gripped it as he held her. He brought her to the hovercraft lowering her head. Danny then went to Maya, having mixed feelings about her here, but with her no longer under the effects of dark eco and once again human she should have a much clearer mind. He didn't see the need to abandon her, but he did check her out seeing she hadn't aged a day, her melons were still large cups, her body was well built and stuffed, and her peach looked very round and firm. He placed her in the same seat as Desiree putting a seat belt on them hoping people were too dumb to notice. 2 hours later. Danny booked himself a room at the hotel Crew himself used as it was known for its discretion. He then checked their vitals having seen enough medical checkups performed on him. What did that statue do to us? He thought, hating the fact that a statue got the drop on him and never knowing it could do that. Those statues might be holding more secrets than we thought, he thought to himself. Maya began opening her eyes and saw she was resting on a bed. Feels good to finally be free, she said in relief, stretching as she got up. Mind explaining how you aren't dead? Danny asked as he was pretty confident being sealed in that silo, and for the amount of time she was sealed in it, she should have died. My brother was not as much a sage as you believe, Danny. Maya said to him, fully relaxed. The precursors believed eco was universally harmonic with each other, well, those of the same type at least. She said to him, when I fought you and your ragtag group, I left a dark eco imprint in Desiree, enough to create a psychic link. I was waiting for her to build up enough dark eco to set me free, but it seems the statue did all the work, she said, looking herself over. Okay, what did he do to us? Danny asked, thinking she'd know. Your dark eco signature is stronger and more potent, there is no doubt, but it stole my dark eco as well. Maya said, not understanding why it did that. I lost most if not all my powers as a result, she said, not able to fly or shoot blasts of dark eco. Well, I have no idea what to do now. Danny said in admittance as the statue aside. They had other issues. Did you see Samos at all? He asked her curiously. Maya shook her head as even through Desiree's eyes she didn't see the green eco sage. This city is going to war. Danny said to her, explaining the political and war happening outside. I have read about these metal heads, they are known throughout history. Maya said as given how remote the island was it was no surprise that most people never saw one. Metal heads are the enemies of the precursor. The precursor tried to lock away dark eco in an attempt to prevent much tragedy, but metal heads expand their numbers through dark eco. It's how they lay and hatch their eggs, she said, seeing scrolls about black and green eggs. Danny believed that as it made sense to a degree, but that's it, they use the eco to repopulate, he asked, seeing that as a continuous problem. Yes, it is how they are so violent and their bodies are weaponized for combat. Maya said, having seen diagrams of what the creatures looked like. If they use dark eco to repopulate, what would light eco do? Danny asked her, never having used light eco for combat. Essentially it can poison them. Maya said as light and dark eco were volatile near each other. Danny put that information away for another time as he rarely used light eco outside of healing. Maya, while losing a majority of her powers, could still sense Danny's very core. She felt the waves of eco inside him, and they had built even after their first meeting. Something is wrong, she thought, looking down at her precursor armor, seeing it react to Danny. Interesting, she thought, as armor or anything of the precursors was temperamental or reacted to only something it should react to. 1 hour later. Desiree had awoken moments ago and cried as she hugged Danny. He had gone out and gotten them combat gear and clothing they could wear. How are you feeling? Danny asked her, knowing how strong and sometimes aggressive dark eco could be. Desiree felt odd, as if the dark eco's very nature had calmed in Danny's presence. Maya had felt the same as before she had completely given into to dark eco. She released every impulse she had, but now in her current state it was a minor annoyance, but being near Danny somehow calmed it. He might be able to manipulate eco, she thought to herself. The sages could use and channel eco, but manipulate and control it was another thing entirely. Next day. Danny had given Desiree a crash course in how he used his eco powers. Maya found it interesting given they all generated dark eco and his experience was illuminating. Danny, I want to kill Baron Praxis. Desiree said as her eyes glowed black for a moment. Danny could see that was no mere statement, he saw she truly wanted to kill him. Okay, he said to her. Maya was surprised as she didn't think Danny would have it in him to end a life. It made him seem far more appealing. 1 hour later. Have you lost your DMN mind? Torn asked Danny. You want to work with 2 untrained women, in your missions? He asked as Danny worked best alone. He knew that he felt adding people to them would hinder him, especially someone untrained. They have worked with me in the past and know how I fight, I'm vouching for them. Danny said to Torn, seeing him glare at him. Have them retrieve the Baron's flag, take them to the testing ground, not help them. Torn said to him. Danny nodded. Few minutes later. What is this place? Maya asked, looking at the water, seeing it was brown, but saw certain reptiles swimming in it. This was an outer part of the city once, it was developed and meant for expansion. I never really come here, but apparently the water is a combination of sewage and the city dumping into the waters. Danny said as there were metal heads here, but they rarely if ever got this close. Desiree and Maya looked at the brown water in disgust. Okay, this is as far as I take you, remember to move fast, everything here is unstable, even the platforms. Danny said to them, as that was pure truth, as he wondered how the metal heads even made it this far sometimes. Desiree and Maya nodded as they began their way to the flag. Hey, handsome. Tess said, greeting Danny. Heard you beat my time on the course, she said with a stuck smile, as she placed her hands on her peach. Drink me up, Danny, she thought, liking the thought of him checking her out. She had low H-cup melons, nice curvy body, and a large round peach that shook with each step she took. I can keep up with you any day of the week, Tess. Danny said, as Tess had been a good friend to him and Keira. She was into tech almost as much as Keira, but her specialty was with weapons. It was a reason crew hired her. Tess smiled at that, as out of everyone in the underground, Danny had no fear of her and had the stones to challenge her. The only person who did that was Ashelin, but Danny did more than challenge, he surpassed her with real results. So who are the new M? She asked a little less cheerfully, as she wasn't blind. She knew many women wanted a piece of Danny, and for good reason. He was attractive, powerful, dangerous. And he was a real man, so it was no surprise that women flocked to him wanting a taste. They watched as the girls battled the red and green reptiles with skill. Danny was especially impressed seeing them not use their dark eco powers, and by Maya knowing how to fight. Tess saw the way they moved, seeing similar movements from Danny, as while Danny often worked alone, she and him were often partners for things that would involve a driver. One would be the driver, the other would provide covering fire. Danny smiled seeing the two bicker as they were at the point of no return, jumping from pedestals on the outer wall, and in a few seconds the pedestals would crumble. They bickered about calling the other fat or heavy and that they were causing the pedestals to fall. Tess chuckled alongside Danny seeing them make it to the top. Not bad, she thought, till she saw the tower crumbling and saw them drop to the ground level and ride a rail landing before Torn. That was fast reaction timing, she thought, as they took advantage of the area to escape. They needed people like that. 2 hours later. No water. Desiree said, seeing Daxter choke on rusted sludge. The Baron wants to encourage people to give up the underground. Danny said, as this was day 1, if the water shortage went on longer, people would get desperate. Danny and Torn explained where the pumping station was and how to reactivate it. 20 minutes later. I swear it's ignoring us. Maya said, as the precursor statue was silent and there were no lights. On the island these things wouldn't stop talking till one took away all their power cells. I'm surprised one was even here, or that it wasn't confiscated. Danny said, as they were on a wooden platform, or that the Baron didn't even know about it. Maya had to admit he had a point. Are we sure it doesn't hold more secrets? She asked, as when it both gave and took from them the dark eco powers. That was news to her, and it took the metal head crystals Danny had. Maybe if I can find a power cell I can have Keira jack into it. Danny said, as she was their best shot, as she knew the tech as best as someone could, and given the fact they had little to no other options was also a reason. They left to go to the pumping station making outside the city walls. These are the metal heads? Desiree asked, seeing them as no bigger threat than the lurkers. These are foot soldiers. Danny said, as they were easy kills in his opinion, as their less plated bodies were weak enough a KG could take them out easily enough. Yeah, you should see some of the insects I've had to hunt down. Daxter said to them, the girls rolling their eyes. No, it's true, Daxter's extermination job kept metal heads from making nest. Danny said, willing to give Daxter his credit, as he heard from his boss some of those metalheads were causing things to happen to the environment, hindering Haven City construction and defenses, and other areas of importance. Without Daxter, the city would have been overrun with bugs and they would have lost many if not all their defenses. The women looked at Daxter, seeing him strike poses. They knew he wasn't useless, but were unsure whether to believe Danny. "Hey Maya, I gotta ask, that armor, does it do anything?" Danny asked, wondering if it was made from the precursors or just the metal like from the stature. "Yes and no, precursor technology is harmonic. My armor, while not their technology, acts as a sort of compass when near metal similar to it." Maya said, as she was still curious why it reacted to Danny at all. "We should harvest the exterior plating of that statue, make more armor for you and Desiree," she said, as the armor was nearly indestructible. Danny liked that idea, as while he was powerful he was still human and could die as easily as any person. If he didn't have his ability to heal himself, he'd have been 6 feet under a long time ago. "We'd need basic guard armor," Desiree said, as she and Danny fought with both power and flexibility. A hindrance to that might not be worth the armor they'd get. They just needed to cover the exterior of their limbs and chest regions. "How would we melt it down?" Danny asked her. "We'd need someone strong to forge the metal, a strong amount of yellow to melt it, and a pre-made mold would be useful as well," Maya said to him, as on the island they had that in abundance, where it was literally gushing from the very ground. "Well, I'm no blacksmith, but if you can show me how to do it, I can do it," Danny said, as she nodded. "You know, without the metal heads this is a very nice bee," Desiree said, as while not as tropical as their island it was still nice. "I could see it. Maybe if we exterminate all these bad boys we can do a little romance on the bee," Daxter said on Desiree's shoulder, and quickly backed off as she flashed him her black eyes. "I was thinking more sunbathing," Desiree said, as she did it on the island in select spots where no one would find her, but on the rare occasion Danny did find her, and it was funny seeing him a stuttering mess, and she didn't mind if it was him admiring her body. She got close to Danny, pressing her bust into him. "Would you like to see how much my body has changed?" she asked him, whispering into his ear seductively. Maya heard and smiled, thinking Danny wasn't as innocent as she'd like to believe, but with his blush she guessed he only saw more rather than pushing forward. They made it to pumping station valve and saw a metal head with 4 pincer-like legs and an organic cannon. "Those are the tougher metal heads," Danny said to them. "They can generate echo like us, but instead of physical attacks they are only able to use that cannon," he said, as he found that to be an interesting part of their evolution. Maya had the same thoughts. "Is its body tougher?" she asked, not seeing it have as much reptilian skin revealed as the foot soldiers near the entrance. Danny nodded as he tossed them both a blaster, as he brought them as a precaution. "Our eco powers are good, but we should limit them to massive enemy fights," he said, as having a weapon gave them another way to battle. "It'll take me time to get you mods, but the red ammo is short but wide range," he said to them. Desiree nodded, thinking she could incorporate this into her combat style. They watched Danny rush the metalhead, and before they knew it, as fast as Danny was, the metalhead spotted him and fired a volley of shots before he sidestepped, punching the metalhead upon getting in range. Then he fired a shot from his blaster, pushing the metalhead off the cliff, causing it to fall about 30 feet, and they all heard the loud cracking sound as it hit the metal floor. "You took that thing down in no time at all," Maya said, impressed, as he fought effectively, strategically, and effortlessly. It certainly was a sight. The metalheads, while tough, can be hurt in similar ways, like not all of them can swim, Danny said, as he shoved plenty in the water that flowed in the sewer, having removed their core before they sank too deep. "The bugs can swim and dig," he said, learning most insect metalheads aside from the scorpions that could fly could also navigate in water. They were interrupted when they saw Daxter was sucked into the pump and soon heard metal clanking downward. "He won't die, right?" Desiree asked curiously. "If he's being pushed through the tubes, then no," Maya said, fairly confident in that. They went down, collecting from the metalhead corpse, and as they touched it they absorbed some dark echo, then saw the metalhead begin to fade. "That happens with us. Whenever we get close to a metalhead, we absorb any residual dark echo, basically draining it from their bodies, and can store the excess amount," he said to them. Both women found that incredibly useful knowledge. they went to the entrance hearing Daxter calling Danny for help. They watched as Danny turned a valve and Daxter was slowly and inhumanely pushed through. Few minutes later. The girls watched as Danny sliced as much as he could from the exterior of the precursor statue using her dark eco claws combined with his red eco strength. He's combining eco, interesting. Maya said as she noted as those two eco were meant for violence and strength. Desiree looked at her hands. While she could do what Danny did, she doubted she had his level of control, as whenever she used her dark eco her entire body fully changed. You can control it, you know, you have been using it subtly with your eyes. What the precursor did to us doesn't change what I showed you. Maya said as she taught Desiree how to control the dark eco in her. She could do more than she thought she could. Desiree looked at her hand and channeled her dark eco to the tips of her fingers. Seeing her claws appear and her ebony skin was the same, she smiled and saw Maya do the same. Few minutes later. Now all we need are the molds, right? Danny asked her curiously. Know anywhere we can find any? Maya asked him, seeing him get an idea. 1 hour later. Why do they have to be made of stone? Desiree asked in exhaustion. Stone holds its shape when using liquid metal for cooling. Danny said as they went back to the pumping station, as doing it in front of the precursor statue seemed idiotic given the ground was made of wood and the ocean would be more accessible given they were near doing this on the bee. Can you generate enough heat? Maya asked as he had been working rather hard to pick apart the statue and make the molds. She got her answer when he self-ignited. Desiree and Maya watched as Danny melted the metal and began smashing it with a hammer they found made entirely of metal. He used his red eco to strengthen him to strike the metal. Desiree paid extra attention as Danny took off his shirt. She noticed he was more muscular than before and that he had a few scars. She knew he could heal himself, but to see scars made her worried, but in truth, she thought they added character and made him more attractive. 2 hours later. Awesome. Danny said, admiring his new precursor armor. Desiree smiled as she admired her new chest plate, as while similar to Maya's it still fit her perfectly. Maya admired her new guards, thinking she'd need them for close combat. We should get clothes that these blend with. Danny said as Maya wore mostly the armor with some leather bindings on her person and Desiree was much the same. The girls nodded in agreement. 1 hour later. Danny went to the hotel and knew they needed somewhere secure for future endeavors. Hey Ashelin, need a favor. 20 minutes later. Can't believe you asked me to make this deal possible. Ashelin said as Danny asked her if she had any way of persuading the owner to sell. Given who her father was, she was able to get this place at a good price, purchasing it on Danny's behalf. He now owned this entire place. We need a place to lie low. Only top criminals or people who are so wealthy they can do whatever come here. Danny said to her, plus with excess rooms we can hide people here if need be. He said to her as this would basically be a safe house, as it wouldn't be public knowledge that he owned this place, plus he took the penthouse and it was under his name, if Desiree. Ashelin had to admit this place would be better than the underground hideout in the wall, and it was more anonymous as it was a building where people came and went a lot. You should take a few days to relax and train your new team. I think Torn is gonna send you to destroy the KG ammo dump or something, she said, as it would be a massive blow to her father. Thanks for the heads up. Danny said as he was sure that'd be easier said than done. He knew some KG outposts had robotic sentries like the ones he and Valerie fought a while back, and if not them possibly something tougher, so it'd be best to keep his guard up. Oh, and Keira will be going with you. Ashelin said as while not a combative, Keira was smart and could hack into the systems there. Danny rolled his eyes as next to racing, Keira was an addict for dangerous situations. Later that day. Danny had to admit the penthouse was pretty nice. It was spacious and grand, something crew would love, and it had many uses as they could enter through the roof now. The girls were also adjusting nicely. Danny heard a knock from the door and went to answer. When he did he saw Rain. Guess you heard, he said, letting her in. Of course, my information network is king. Rain said, taking a seat on his couch. So how's crew? Danny asked as after their racing for crew they gained a reputation and quickly rose to fame. Rain took over after hacking her father's little hovercraft and jacking all its systems. She stole from all his accounts and left him trapped in his room, providing him with necessities to survive. but even with all that he was trapped, Rain acted on Cruz's behalf, for much of his business, having him take all the fall for certain actions that didn't go as planned, leaving her name clean. It helped that if she were to ever take over, her name would be feared, not as Cruz's daughter, but as her own dangerous woman. Still grouchy, Rain said as they shared a laugh, "I heard you got your friend back and she has eco powers like you," she said, as that was amazing to have such power at his fingertips and another person as well. Danny nodded, explaining what had happened. "Surprised they are alive," Rain said as dark eco injection sounded like a death sentence. "So how goes your war?" she said as she and Tess basically gossiped, which Torn called an exchange of information. Same old," Danny said to her. "Is our deal still in place?" Rain asked, as when Danny found out he was the prince, he told her in hopes of more assistance, and she agreed to a certain exchange where she had more rights to certain under-the-table deals and she would get less hassle from the guards, and in return she'd supply the underground with information and the like. "I keep my word," Danny said to her. "Good, hope to see more to our deal in the future," Rain said, walking away with a sway in her peach as the war was getting more and more profitable. But she would have gotten involved anyway, as she was positive if the Baron kept doing what he was doing they'd lose. Under Danny, they had a decent shot at surviving. Danny felt tired and went to his room to relax as today was stressful. Danny made it to his room and saw Desiree sitting on his bed completely naked. He admired the woman's SNSL beauty and her amazing body. "I've thought about you, Danny, every day in my cell. I thought about finding you," Desiree said, looking him dead in the eye. "I'm in love with you," she said to him, seeing him tense. "I've loved you for years, and Danny, tonight I want to show you how much," she said as he walked over and claimed her lips. She felt his chest press against his own, feeling his strong muscles. "Danny, I want you and only you to be my first," she said to him, but secretly she was hoping to be his first as well. But she knew there was competition and she couldn't blame Danny given her time away, as the day she escaped he came to find her. Danny blushed as he stared her right in the eye. "I want you to be my first too," he said, causing her to blush brightly. Desiree felt a fire inside her body, as tonight was going to be special. She watched as he took off his clothes, watching him intently, and she felt like she lost his nerve seeing his "He's bigger than the Yakos back home," she thought, as Danny was very well endowed and she knew that he would certainly satisfy her with that. She again, feeling him claim her lips, slowly moving down to her neck, feeling him give her neck special attention, as she could swear he was going to leave a mark. She practically had a mini CLMX as he started to kiss her melons, feeling him SCK on her NPL, starting gently before moving to the other one. She when he kept going down further, kissing her toned stomach till he reached her PP and made her scream out in pure pleasure as he ate her out. "God, she tastes so sweet," Danny thought to himself, eating her out, thoroughly loving how her PP tasted and especially enjoying her breathy "I should be pleasuring him," Desiree thought, weakly, unable to move, wanting him to just take her body, but also wanted to service him and give him the pleasure she was currently receiving. She let out a whine as she climaxed, coating his face in her juices. Danny lapped up her juices before going back to her face and kissed her. She feeling his pressed against her thigh. She louder, feeling him slide between her PP lips. "F me," Desiree said as she purred. "Please Danny, make me a woman, you're a woman," she said, screaming in pleasure, feeling him pushing inside her and screaming in slight pain as she felt him break through her. She breathed as Danny gave her a few minutes to adjust, and when she made eye contact she gave him permission to keep going. She felt Danny's move pick up in pace after each one. Danny looked at her tips in amazement, seeing them sway with each move he kept of her, but he began playing and eating on her tips, unable to resist them. "Yes," Desiree said as this was what she had wanted. "I'm your be Danny, F me wherever and whenever you like," she said, as if Danny told her to bend over she would do it instantly and it wouldn't matter where. If it was for his pleasure she'd do it. Danny liked hearing that from her. He liked the idea of Desiree being his and his alone. "I can do anything I want to you?" he asked, wanting to confirm. "If you want it, all you need to do is take it," Desiree said, not caring what it was. She jolted a little, feeling his PPB pulled out of her, and tapped the entrance of her back door. She blushed brightly, having known men like to touch that place. She looked at Danny and seeing he was waiting for her to respond. "All you need to do is take it," she said again, feeling him plunge inside her peach. "Your peach is as tight as your PP, it's trying to milk me, Desiree," Danny said to her. "Where do you want my first juice, Desiree?" he asked her as he pindeted her peach more aggressively. Desiree blushed in thought, wondering where she should take Danny's juice, in which of her oles would be best. She thought of her mouth wanting to suck Danny off and feel his juice fill her mouth, savoring the salty treat. She thought about letting him keep taking her peach, filling her ole to the brim with his juices, but then she thought of his pee-pee in her most sacred place, filling it up to the brim with juices like any woman would for her love. All of them, she panted out. I want you to fill me in all my oles, mark me, fill me, please mstr, she said, desperately wanting to feel and taste his juices inside every ole she had. Danny felt even more turned on and began to move even more, feeling his as slam against her peach, loving the slapping sound it made every time they met, and soon began to leak inside her. Desiree feeling her lover's juice fill her peach, it felt very warm and she loved how he kissed her as he leaked, massaging her melons gently. I couldn't have fallen for a better man, she thought happily, and then as she felt his pee-pee was still hard, she remembered the stamina Danny had in activities and battles, but she didn't think that translated to his stamina in the bedroom. If he's as half as strong in bed as he is in a fight, she thought, feeling her body tremble in both fear and excitement. Danny pulled out of her peach and went back to her pee-pee, not giving her a moment. I'm not going to stop, Desiree, not until I've filled all your oles and covered you in my juices. We might not stop even after that, he said, as he had much pent up and was going to unleash it on her tonight. Desiree at that claim, as she wanted to be filled more than anything. Go ahead, it's my duty to please you, fill me as much as you want, and even after keep doing as you please, she said, both willing and happy to take it all from her mstr. Outside the room, Maya was fingering herself furiously, never expecting Danny to be so dementy. It was a bit boring seeing Desiree give in, but it did nothing to lessen Danny's strength and masculinity. He could breed her if he wants to. Maya thought, knowing Desiree would do anything for him, but she was curious about how much longer he could go, as Desiree was breaking a sweat while Danny seemed to barely being reaching his stride. She watched him fill her pee-pee, then immediately went back to her peach. Is he even human? She thought as he told her he healed quickly than most, his light and green eco doing it almost instinctually, but she wondered if that was how he had so much stamina and was always at peak physical health. He might be able to go all night and even after, she thought, pulling her soaked fingers to her face and licked them. She entered the room taking off her clothes and saw Danny had noticed her, but not Desiree, as she rode his pee-pee with her peach. Danny saw Maya's NDE form and eyed her like a predator. Maya's knees felt weak from his stare. She saw his powerful gaze as if it was looking into her very soul. What made it even more powerful was his eyes glowed a myriad of colors of each of the other echoes. She saw him beckon her to leap closer, and she did. Desiree was annoyed even as her mind was filled with pleasure. She knew Maya was watching, as after her time in prison dealing with the woman in her head, she knew Maya was only manipulating her. She wanted Danny and was willing to use her to get to him. She often thought Maya was going to try and take over her body or force her to release her somehow, but given she was freed and had a fraction of her eco powers, she was much less a threat. But what really angered her was tonight was about Danny and her, but now that greedy bee was ruining it. I want to serve you, Danny. I always like to back the winning side, and I don't see how it's possible that you can die. Maya said, as it was true. She admired strength but also resourcefulness, and Danny had both in spades. I'll be your bee, your SLV, your where, and all I ask is one thing, mark me with your dark eco, she said, as Desiree became confused. Danny on the other hand wasn't. He knew there was a reason why all the sages took aspects of their designated eco. Much like him, they had that eco inside them to the point they could generate it, but unlike him there were side effects. He also learned from Samos that sages could often channel their power into other things, not just themselves. Samos did it with his tree, which was why it was so strong and healthy. I can mark a person? He asked her curiously. Yes, my brother did it with me to make me like him. Channel you eco into me and I will be bound to you. Maya said, as it was not a lie, as eco was a raw powerful source, but eco belonging to a sage was much more personal. It was NTMT, and once bound it was impossible to remove. She explained to Danny how it was done, and Desiree as well wanted it. Both women felt the dark eco in them jolted in excitement. Desiree screamed as she bounced on Danny's pee-pee more furiously and soon felt him empty himself inside her rectum. Get on the bed and spread yourself, Danny said to her, seeing her weakly get up and do as told. He then grabbed Maya by her hair and pulled her into an RTC kiss. Desiree watched in frustration both literally and figuratively, wanting Danny to F the living daylights out of her. "You gonna treat me like your little SECSLV Danny?" Maya asked him as she felt the increase in her dark echo. It was somehow even more primal after being increased by Danny's own. She was silenced as he moved quickly, forcing her head in between Desiree's juice-soaked oles, him behind her thrusting his PP into her PP and him using his hands to restrain her arms. Desiree was now enjoying herself, looking down to see Maya lapping up her juice-filled oles. She loved the sight of her beneath her and she wanted her to stay there. Maya couldn't remove herself as Danny was keeping her perfectly in place, and even when she used her dark eco powers to increase her strength it did nothing, but she smiled. "He owns me," she thought, finding him much more attractive that he could actually prove it in bed. Next morning, Maya felt sore on the lower half of her body. She saw she and Desiree had been lying on Danny's chest. "Well, he's strong, powerful, a king, and a monster in bed," she thought to herself, seeing he had some morning wood, and her lips quivered with hunger. "And he made me addicted to his juices," she thought, as Danny certainly was a prize stallion. She went down and began doing him. Desiree woke up and saw Maya doing Danny and gained an annoyed look, but let her continue. After last night she knew she'd never be able to satisfy him all by herself, and she knew there would be more women like Maya. "It won't matter," she thought, snuggling into his chest. "I'll be his best girl," she thought happily, assuming Danny finally shot his juices from the groan he made and the loud slurping sounds Maya made. She watched as Maya limped off the bed and headed for the shower. "Sleep well, my love," she said, kissing Danny before silently following after Maya. Bathroom. Maya felt the hot water hit her skin and ease as she felt the warmth of it. She felt dirty in every sense as Danny truly F her like an animal. She was sure she carried his scent now. She was soon brought out of her thoughts as Desiree brought her to her knees, pushed her to a wall and pressed her peach against her face. "I want you to understand who your MSTR is, B," Desiree said as Maya ate out her peach. "I want you to understand, if you disobey, I will DSPLN you for the man your body belongs to, and if you even think about betrayal, I will hunt you down and kill you," she said to her, feeling her try to speak as she ate her out but didn't care what her answer was. All that mattered was she knew she belonged to Danny now. Clockwork's realm. "Don't say it, I don't need to know," Clockwork said, as there were many things that he was, but a PPNG-TM wasn't amongst that long list. He had brought Desiree here and allowed her to see a life with her greatest enemy, the loyalty she was denied in life and the love she never received. Desiree was silent as she saw everything her duplicate had went through. She hated the fact that even in another life she was a prisoner and abused, but she had seen Danny work effortlessly to find her double. She had seen many leave her and use her, but he treated her with friendship, trust, and love, and was willing to cause pure havoc to harm those who harmed her double. It made her non-beating heart clench in pain, wishing she had that life. "I wonder," she thought as she knew the ghost boy wasn't single-minded like his parents, believing all ghosts are evil and had ghost allies here in the ghost zone. He was rather well endowed and quite the lover, she thought, blushing as she saw the entire performance. "And he is the Ghost King," she thought, as while no ghost told him, Danny had a claim to Pariah Dark's throne. He beat him in fair and honest combat and had put his life on the line to save both worlds. It made him both feared and loved by many, and he grew more and more powerful by the day. Clockwork rolled his eyes as Desiree was a complex girl. She changed the timeline whenever Danny was concerned, as her powers were as unpredictable as Danny was creating many more futures than one could imagine even for a being such as him. But they did truly love each other, as Danny had dealt with a lot, and Desiree, while suffering longer, still would have been nicer to him if she took time to understand who the man behind the ghost was. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for more crossovers. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author pyrohelixdrago on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.